I caught my boyfriend cheating on me right at a bar. And instead of apologizing, he took a sip of his drink, smirked, and said, "Why don't we try an open relationship, Sophie?" We could both have fun that very night. I moved out of his apartment, but Ethan didn't care. He posted a story showing my little studio apartment, mocking me in front of our entire friend group. What they didn't know was that in that apartment, if it were you, when your partner suggested an open relationship like that, how would you respond? Leave your answer below. I genuinely want to know. I'm Sophie. Honestly, I never even planned to go to the bar that night. It was just an ordinary evening. I stopped by to pick up my friend because she had a bit too much to drink. But the moment I pushed open that dark wooden door and the warm yellow lights hit my eyes, I froze. In the corner booth, Ethan Brooks was lounging back in his seat, his arm around the waist of a young girl in a ridiculously short skirt. She was sitting on his lap, laughing, tilting her head to kiss him like there was no one else around. Like I, his longtime girlfriend, never even existed. I didn't scream. I just walked straight over, not fast, not slow. And when he looked up and saw me, Ethan didn't flinch. He lifted his glass, took a sip, and smiled. That same half-mocking smile I once thought was charming. Now I just wanted to smash it with my fist. "Sophie," he said, his voice light like a joke, "I think this is getting boring. Why don't we try an open relationship? I still love you. But hey, you could see other people too. I wouldn't mind. The girl on his lap didn't move." He went on, "I never really planned to get married. The others out there, they're just a game. But you'll always be the main one." Someone behind us laughed loudly. "She thinks breaking up with Ethan means she'll find someone better." Another chimed in, "I think it's great. Ethan gets to eat fast food on the street instead of being stuck with her at home." Ethan took a drag from his cigarette, glanced at them, and muttered, "Shut up." But no one did, because they knew I had no choice, or so they thought. I looked at my phone. A bank notification popped up on the screen. Royalties from the film adaptation. 7 figures, not a decimal in sight. I shoved the phone into my pocket, looked up, and the bar lights hit my eyes like a spotlight. "Ethan," I said calmly, "we're done." This time, his smile froze. "Sophie, don't be stupid. You'll beg me to come back." I didn't answer. I just turned and walked away. Every eye followed me like a shadow. But I didn't care, because I knew that was the last time I'd let anyone define my worth. That night, I moved out of Ethan's apartment and into a small unit near the downtown arts district. The next morning, Ethan showed up at my new place, standing at the alley entrance with a disgusted look. "You call this a house?" The walls were peeling. The wooden floors creaked with every step. But I chose this place because the bay sunlight poured through the window every morning, and the sound of street artists painting below was medicine for my soul. Ethan didn't bother stepping in. He just pulled out his phone, recorded a video, and sent it straight to our group chat. "Guys, check out the rat nest Sophie picked." The replies came swarming in like bees from a broken hive. "No way, she left Ethan for this dump? What is she even doing?" From good life to probably eating raw sandwiches now. "Ethan's the best she'll ever get. Sophie won't top that." Maybe he forgot I was in the group too. Or maybe, now that I'd seen his true face, he didn't care to hide it anymore. I muted the chat, but Ethan still stood there, smug. "Sophie, do you even know what an open relationship is? Or are you stuck in medieval times?" I didn't say a word. I just scooped up the trash I was cleaning and dumped it straight at his feet. The smell of dampness, paper scraps, and yesterday's spilled coffee soaked into his shoes. Ethan covered his nose, jumped back like he'd been electrocuted, swore, and stormed back to his car. This apartment isn't fancy, but it's mine. This is where I begin again. Even if, to someone like Ethan, it means absolutely nothing. I was catching up on sleep after an all-nighter for a deadline when a knocking sound woke me up. Not urgent, but persistent. The kind of knock that tells you clearly, it won't stop until you open the door. I pulled the thin blanket over my head, hoping whoever it was would give up. But no. 3 more knocks. I dragged on my slippers, hair a mess, eyes stinging, my face showing the full crankiness of someone yanked out of the precious sleep they had fought hard to earn. "Who is it?" My voice was still groggy and dry. But before the question even finished, I froze at the sight of the person standing at my door. A young man, at least 6'3", with shoulders wide enough to block the doorway, a charcoal gray jacket hugging his frame, making his narrow waist stand out even more. And that face, the kind you'd stop and stare at for a few seconds if you saw it in a cologne ad or on a magazine cover, was now standing right in front of me, in real life, bathed in the soft light, slipping through the old doorway. "You are?" I asked, nearly stammering. "Liam Hayes, the live-in housekeeper. Chloe sent me." Before I could even react, he bent down to take off his shoes, saying as he did, "Mind if I come in?" Thanks, a fully self-answered question, as if this were his own home. I stood frozen at the door, mouth open like a fish out of water. Liam stepped over the threshold, carrying a faint scent of woodsy cologne, like pine after the rain. My phone buzzed on the table. It was a text from Chloe, my best friend. "Has Liam arrived yet? Breakup or not, you still gotta live. You've been skipping meals, and I'm too far away to keep you from dropping dead in that old apartment." The next line nearly made me laugh. "I found Liam, art student, cheapest rate in all of San Francisco." "So, how does he look?" I looked at Liam, who was now inside, starting to take off his jacket. The body underneath the tight black tank top, shoulders that seemed to catch the wind, solid arms, abs clearly defined. And when he bent down to put on the pastel pink apron, the one I bought on a low-mood day when I still wanted to feel cute, I could only text Chloe back 2 words. "Not bad." Looking up, Liam asked in a calm voice, "Hey, where's the kitchen?" I took a deep breath, trying not to get knocked over by that face, and pointed. "Over there." My heart pounded like festival drums on Mission Street. The apartment suddenly felt smaller, the air hotter even though the window was wide open. Less than 2 minutes later, a heavy crash rang out from the kitchen, like a hammer smashing stone. I leapt from my chair and rushed in. On the floor, 2 of my favorite porcelain bowls were shattered, their white fragments sparkling like fallen stars. Liam stood there, still holding the wooden ladle, eyelids twitching slightly, voice low and apologetic. "Sophie, I broke your bowls. You can deduct it from my pay." He looked down at the mess, shoulders hunched like a student being scolded by a teacher. I exhaled, half wanting to laugh, half wanting to cry over those bowls. "It's okay," I said, softer than I meant to. "Just be more careful next time." That's when I remembered. Chloe said Liam's rate was suspiciously low. Now I knew why. He was clumsy to an unbelievable degree. Cleaning meant spilling water all over the floor. Cooking meant hitting the wrong setting and burning the pot black. Making coffee without putting in any grounds. Spraying window cleaner but using floor detergent. Every time I saw that tall figure drifting through the living room, my heart skipped. Not from butterflies, but from fear that another item would meet its end. And yet I didn't fire Liam. Because somehow, that clumsiness didn't make me dislike him. Maybe it was because when Liam wiped up spills, he tilted his head like he was sketching a line on paper. When he carried a glass of water, he used both hands like it was something precious. And sometimes I'd catch him standing silently in front of a chipped wall, watching the sunlight hit the corner like he was admiring a piece of art. Though he had no clue about housekeeping, Liam turned out to be an unexpected muse for my new comic. That angular face, those deep chestnut eyes, those straight shoulders, that slightly lazy but steady walk. Liam was exactly the male lead I had been searching for. A young man living between reality and bursts of artistic color, imperfect but impossible to look away from. I haven't told him that yet. I've only done a few secret sketches in the middle of the night. But I know, hiring Liam, even if it makes my heart race every time I hear something break, was one of the best decisions I've made since leaving Ethan. Because sometimes, what you need most isn't someone perfect. It's someone who makes you see the world again. With new eyes. Eyes colored by a sense of rebirth. Act 3. That night, Liam decided to cook dinner. He was pretty excited. Me? I didn't have high expectations. But even then, I didn't expect the entire meal to be potatoes. Mashed potatoes, undercooked. Potato slices, no salt, and a pot of potato soup, with nothing in it but potatoes. Overall, it looked like a serious interview panel hosted by the potato family. Liam pushed the plate toward me, scratching his head awkwardly, voice low and apologetic. I'm not great at cooking, but don't worry, I'll learn. He paused for a moment, then looked up, his eyes more serious. Over time, you'll see. I have other strengths. For an adult like me, that sentence couldn't help but send my mind down a path, not exactly innocent. Liam quickly stood up to mop the floor. Maybe the living room was a bit warm that day. Liam wiped his forehead, then lifted the hem of his tank top to dry his sweat. His abs stood out like they were sculpted. And before I could react, Liam turned around and seriously asked, "It's a bit hot. Is it okay if I take off my shirt while I clean?" I sat on the sofa, chin resting on my hand. I didn't say anything, just watched Liam bend down, mop in hand, moving slowly. He took off his shirt, revealing his bare torso. Not the showy kind of muscles built for Instagram at the gym, but the body of a young man, solid, grounded. Every time he turned, his shoulder blades lifted, back curved, and the yellow light in the room cast a soft glow on his skin, making each movement feel like it was directed. The room filled with something hard to describe. Quiet, warm, real, like a scene from a film. Then my phone buzzed. The screen lit up with Ethan's name. The message was a photo, a dish at some upscale restaurant. Truffle pasta, golden sauce glistening, served on a pristine white marble table. Ethan wasn't someone who took pictures of food, but this time, the angle was deliberate. Dim lighting, and if you looked closely, you could spot the corner of a woman's skirt in the photo. Beige, silky, slightly shiny. I knew this game. Ethan was testing. He sent pictures like that to stir up contrast. Between me, in this old, modest apartment, and him, sitting in a fine restaurant, with someone else, pouring red wine, using silver cutlery, enjoying the life he once gave me. When I didn't reply, a few minutes later, Ethan sent another. This time, it was a shopping receipt, LV bags. 3 of them. He added a message. That girl has no eye for luxury, can't even pick something expensive. And another line. At least she knows how to save me money. I read it and felt no pain. No anger either. Just hollow. Like reading an old script I already memorized every single line of. Ethan hadn't changed. Still used money like a soft leather whip. Didn't bruise, didn't bleed, but still stung. I looked up. Liam was kneeling on one knee, wiping under the table. Each movement slow, a little clumsy, but sincere. Sweat trailed down his back, glistening under the light. No complaints, no bragging. I turned off my phone screen. Didn't reply. Didn't need to. Because some answers only require a look, a silence, and one deep breath enough to extinguish every manipulative effort from someone who used to matter. The potatoes were still bad, but I finished them, and I thought, maybe tomorrow I'll teach Liam how to season with salt. A week passed. Liam, with his soft footsteps and clumsy clattering in the kitchen, had become a familiar part of my new life. I was buried in my tiny studio, pen sliding across the tablet, messy ink turning into comic panels, my mind spinning like it was caught in a storm. At one point, I had to get up to stretch and breathe, but the moment I stepped out of the room, I ran straight into Liam doing push-ups in the living room. He was wearing his usual black tank top, but somehow, today, it looked different. The muscles on his shoulders stood out, every push precise, clean, like a well-oiled machine, but still full of energy. His back was straight, the curve of his spine taut beneath the thin fabric, and his legs were so long, I couldn't tell if it was just his height or if fate had designed it so I would have to. Look. Liam looked up just as a bead of sweat slipped from the corner of his eye, down his cheek, and disappeared into his collar. Just 1 second, but I felt something dry in my throat, and my face flushed like I was standing next to a fireplace. Liam caught my gaze and smiled lightly. Sophie, done drawing? He made a move to stand up, voice casual. Want me to cut up some fruit? No need. I pulled out a chair, plopped down, trying to keep my tone even. Keep going. I knew why he was working out in the living room. He could have done it in his room or on the balcony. But Liam picked the exact line of sight from where I was. Picked the lighting that hit his profile just right. Picked the exact moment I'd step out of the work zone to look at something that made me stop thinking altogether. Then Liam started doing one-arm push-ups. The movement wasn't just steady, it was impressively flawless. His core stayed tight, his wrist steady, posture perfect like a pro athlete. He turned his head to me, voice light but full of something else. Sophie, not heavy enough. Want to sit on me? Help me out a bit? Those eyes, bright. Not from the lighting, but something else. Maybe the thrill of challenge, or maybe a subtle intention. I smiled. All right. I needed to write a romantic scene for the comic, needed some inspiration to draw. I walked over, gently placed both hands on Liam's shoulders to steady myself, then sat down. Short skirt, skin against skin. My knees pressed against his back, the muscles shifting beneath my legs each time he pushed up and down. The rhythm started slow, then faster, then harder. I lost balance, leaning slightly forward. Careful! Liam caught me instinctively, but the movement was too quick and he fell with me, his whole body landing on mine. One hand caught the floor, the other braced against my chest, keeping a safe distance. But his breath, warm, close, brushed my cheek like a sentence that never made it to words. I looked up, and our eyes met. In that moment, the entire room went quiet. Only one gaze searching, and one heartbeat skipping rhythm. Liam leaned in, the space between us shrinking. I tilted my head, whispered, I'm going to bed. I stood up, walked toward the bedroom, my heart still racing. When I glanced back, Liam was still in the same position, watching me, as if reluctant, the golden light casting a shimmer of sweat across his shoulder. The next morning, I opened my door and saw Liam in the kitchen. But not the Liam from the night before. This was a completely different Liam, wearing a white button-down shirt, sleeves rolled up, hair neat, eyes bright, and every button done all the way to the collar. The boyish vibe made even the worn-out kitchen feel calmer. You're up? He said, holding a plate of sunny-side-up eggs, smiling. Breakfast's ready. I sat down. The eggs were perfectly cooked. The toast cut into tidy little squares. Warm milk, not too much, just enough for one small cup. Every detail, thoughtful, unspoken, but clear. My phone buzzed. Ethan, want to go get something good to eat? Don't eat junk. Then another message, with his usual taunting tone. No reply? Afraid you won't resist and beg me to take you back? It was the kind of provocation I knew too well. And it's true. I used to be hurt by attacks like that. But today, I picked up my phone, took a photo of the breakfast, then replied, Don't worry. I have someone who makes me breakfast. 6'3". The next message came instantly. Are you kidding? Your couple $1,000 royalties can get you a 6'3" guy? Sophie, we've been together for years. Don't be stubborn. I'll take you shopping. I put the phone down, my fingers gripping the fork tightly. Liam, sitting across from me, pushed the cup of milk toward me, voice gentle. Your boyfriend? I glanced at him, his green eyes curious but not nosy. Ex, I replied dryly. Liam nodded, gathering the dishes, his fingers brushing the table lightly. You're so pretty, how could he let you go? The question came out, innocent like a child, but it made me pause. He wanted an open relationship, a few extra girls on the side. I didn't agree, I said, staring at the milk, avoiding his eyes. Liam paused, the clinking of dishes soft. He looked at me, voice low and sincere. He didn't know what he had. If I had a girlfriend like you, I'd never cheat. I'm still pretty traditional, not dramatic. Not trying to flatter. But a sentence that made me, a woman once betrayed, tested by a man's arrogance, feel strangely warm inside. That afternoon, I went grocery shopping with Liam. We pushed the cart through every aisle, buying all sorts of things to fill the empty kitchen. But halfway through, we realized Liam had forgotten to grab celery. He hurried back while I slowly walked toward the neighborhood near home. I stopped for a bit and ran into Mr. Johnson, our elderly neighbor, and chatted with him briefly. But when I returned, the first thing I saw was Ethan, already waiting right outside my door. Sophie! He sneered, eyes scanning me before deliberately saying, So this is your 6'3" guy? Can he even mop floors or cook? I looked at him slowly, just long enough for his smirk to falter. That's a neighbor. The nanny I hired is only 6'3", and has 8-pack abs, I said, glancing at his body, his stomach starting to round out, no longer the man who once believed he was the center of the universe. You think I'm stupid? Ethan snapped, hiring a model to be a nanny? Yeah, right. He held out a bag of pastries, my favorite kind, from that high-end shop, as expensive in the dessert world as Hermes. You left me. I bet you can't even afford one of these now. His smile was full of smugness. I didn't take it. I was about to speak when his phone rang. The hallway was quiet, and I could faintly hear a woman's voice from the speaker, sweet, clingy. Ethan, I'm wearing the new outfit. When are you coming over? He paused, then said softly, In a bit. After hanging up, he shoved the pastry bag and a card into my hand. Take it. Buy whatever you want. I've got work. When Liam came back from the store, carrying 2 grocery bags, his eyes instantly landed on the pastry bag on the table. You bought this? He asked, fingers playing with the still fresh celery. I shrugged. My ex brought it. Do you eat sweets? It's yours. Liam smiled and thanked me, but didn't touch it. He went straight into the kitchen. That night's dinner, I realized Liam's cooking had improved drastically. The braised meat was tender, no longer half raw like the week before. After dinner, he quietly cleaned up, wiped the floor, arranged every dish and spoon neatly, then went into the bathroom. The sound of water echoed for about 15 minutes, then stopped. When the door opened, Liam stepped out. He had only a towel wrapped around his waist. I didn't know what was under it, but it was clear nothing else was outside. Water still clung to his shoulders, running down his firm abs, each muscle clearly visible under the warm yellow light. He was drying his wet hair as he looked at me, voice slightly apologetic. Sorry, I forgot to bring my clothes. My eyes scanned his body, then stopped at his abs. Honestly, a feast for the eyes. I swallowed dryly, forcing a smile. It's fine. Liam sat at the edge of the sofa, keeping a conscious distance, while I tried to stay composed, though my hand trembled slightly as I poured more water into my glass. He suddenly mumbled, Oh, right, the pastry. I haven't eaten it. Then reached for the box on the table, but his hand slipped. The pastry landed straight on his stomach. The buttercream smeared, leaving a white streak across his tanned skin. He gave an awkward laugh, one hand holding the towel, the other trying to clean it up. Sophie, my hands are full. Can you help? I didn't hesitate. Grabbed 2 napkins, but after a moment, I put one back. Saving is a virtue, after all. The thin paper touched his hot skin, cream sliding across, easily gliding over the hard ridges of his abs. The paper trembled lightly in my hand, because I was trembling too. Suddenly, Liam grabbed my wrist. His fingers were warm, the grip firm but not rough, his voice hoarse. "Sophie, you've smudged it all. Now what?" I looked up. Those eyes didn't avoid mine. On the contrary, they glowed in the breathless closeness. "How about—" His words cut off as the lights went out. Without warning. In the darkness, I still kept my head tilted up, heart racing. My voice came out soft. "Now, what do we do?" Liam tightened his grip on my hand, his breath brushing the space between us. "Take off the towel, Sophie." The words were quiet, urgent, gentle, almost like a plea. I stayed silent, and before I could even decide, he leaned in closer, his fingers gripping my wrist like a whisper. "You know I did it on purpose, right?" The air was thick and dark, our breaths tangled, skin to skin. The scent of soap still clung to his body, overpowering the melting buttercream. I gave a soft laugh, one that didn't deflect. I wasn't some naive 16-year-old. How could I not recognize every look, every teasing move this man made? But so what? I was single. He was 5 years younger, strong, attractive, willing to use his body to make me smile. Why would I say no? When Liam leaned in to kiss me, I wrapped my arms around his neck. The kiss was wild. He lifted me up, lips never leaving mine. From the living room to the bedroom, the whole apartment echoed like a battlefield. Craving, intense, but with a softness rooted in instinct. That night, I knew clearly. There are lines, once crossed, you can't go back from. But I also knew I didn't want to go back. The next morning, I woke up to an empty space. Liam had gotten up early. I lay still for a few minutes, listening to the sounds around me, then forced myself to get out of bed, bare feet touching the slightly cold wooden floor. In the bathroom mirror, I saw my own face, messy hair, faint dark circles still under my eyes, but the corners of my mouth had quietly curved up. A very small smile, a smile for myself. After showering, I stepped out, and the first thing I saw was Liam in the kitchen. He was wearing nothing but a pair of slightly loose shorts, his upper body completely bare, with an apron tied around his waist. It was a ridiculous scene, and yet hard to look away from. His firm muscles moved with every motion of his arms, and the faint scent of butter wafted through the room. Hearing the noise, Liam turned around and smiled. "Breakfast's ready, Sophie." The sunny-side-up eggs were golden and even, the edges lightly crispy, looking more perfect than any of his previous trial meals. A sudden knock on the door startled me. I frowned, set the plate down, and walked over. It was Ethan. He leaned against the doorframe, lazy posture, his eyes half disdainful, half probing. "Got nothing better to do?" I said coldly. I was about to shut the door, but his hand quickly wedged in, got painfully caught, and he winced, but still didn't let go. Still leaning there, he jerked his chin toward the street. "Look at this neighborhood." "This apartment's older than you. Move back in." I stared straight at him. For a second, I couldn't tell if Ethan truly missed our years together, or just couldn't accept that I no longer moved along the path he had mapped out. "Move back in? With your other girlfriends?" I asked. Ethan instantly denied it. "That's not happening." "The other two? I've arranged separate places for them. They're not worthy of stepping into our home." The words dropped, so heavy, so shameless, that I couldn't hold back a scoff. With someone like him, explanations were pointless. I was about to close the door when Ethan shoved 2 shopping bags into my hand. Looking down, I saw 2 bright orange Hermes bags. "I bought these for you." I didn't take them. "Ethan, we've broken up." He nodded. "I know." Then gave a dry laugh, like it was all a game. "But I haven't agreed yet." "You're just being stubborn for now, that's okay." "I can wait." I said nothing. My hand loosened. Ethan immediately threw the bags to the floor. "Fine, stay here then. When you regret it, Call me with that. He turned and walked away, so quickly that I didn't even have time to open the door wide enough for him to see that in the kitchen behind me stood a young man, shirtless, still by the stove. Liam took care of me attentively, both physically and emotionally, clinging to me, calling sis like a little puppy, though his voice always carried a hint of flirtation and a trace of eager to please. Every movement he made was full of effort, all to satisfy me. He also gave me endless creative inspiration. Every night, after we indulged ourselves, I would return to the studio and draw. Each new chapter brimmed with freshness. The new comic series exploded online, just as I'd hoped when I moved into this apartment. But good things, it seems, never last long. One day, Liam said he'd bought a new fragrance and wanted to try it out. Then he rushed into the bathroom, the sound of water gushing covering up all the silence in the apartment. His phone was left on the nightstand, the screen lighting up with a new message. I glanced at it, but then froze. The passcode was so simple it felt like an invitation, his own birth date. I tapped in a few numbers, and the screen unlocked instantly. The message appeared. Liam, how's the nanny gig going? It's all right. A bit tiring during the day, but at night, it feels pretty good. Followed by a grinning emoji. Poor you having to use your body just to mess with Ethan. Liam replied, Shut the fuck up. I'm just sacrificing for the greater good. My finger kept scrolling through the conversation. At dawn, the same morning I had bent down to wipe buttercream off his stomach, he had texted, Ethan's woman is in my bed. I read it all. My heart didn't race because I was shocked, but because of how coldly clear every word was. Then I exited the chat, returned everything to its original layout, locked the screen, and placed the phone back where it had been, as if I'd never touched it. Less than 2 minutes later, Liam rushed out, towel wrapped loosely, hair still dripping wet. His eyes immediately went to the phone. When he saw it sitting untouched, a wave of relief visibly passed across his face. What's wrong? I asked, voice calm. Nothing, he replied, gripping his towel with one hand, tearing open a package with the other, hurried, clumsy. Just excited to try the new scent. The light suddenly went out. The room plunged into darkness, with only Liam's quickened breath syncing with my heartbeat. His warmth seeped into every empty corner, covering me slowly, and I didn't push him away. Liam, I whispered. His voice was low, hoarse. Kiss me. He knelt down in front of me, lifted my chin. The kiss met my lips, gentle, slow, so serious it made me feel out of sync. It wasn't a game or something rushed. It felt like he was trying to leave a mark on every breath I took. The curtains hadn't been drawn. Moonlight spilled in, rippling like water, covering our skin, our hair, and the trembling night surrounding us. That night, I didn't expose Liam's lie. On the contrary, I let myself sink into it all the way. Because sometimes, cold truths can't warm you through a moonlit night. But a gentle lie can make someone willingly drown. My new comic series continued to blow up. Each new release climbed the bestseller charts, and there were already offers on the table for anime and game adaptation rights. And in all that success, Liam's contribution wasn't small. A guy from a wealthy family, born into luxury, yet willingly played the role of a nanny, mopping floors, cooking, cleaning, every task done with such care and precision that this old apartment suddenly felt like it had lit up. His cooking skills improved steadily, every dish no longer clumsy like in the beginning. I had even gained 3.5 kilos. But of course, our most in-sync collaboration was still at night. Liam gave it everything. Every night, he was like a big, eager dog, tirelessly trying to please his owner, never giving up, never holding back. Whenever I ran my fingers through his sweat-damp hair and softly whispered, "Good job," Liam's eyes would light up instantly. He'd become even more enthusiastic, as if all the energy of youth had been poured into a single mission, to satisfy me. Sis. His voice would drop low after the climax, his breath still heavy, hot skin pressed against my back. After every time we made love, Liam would hold me tightly, his arms wrapped around my waist like he couldn't let go, as if he were afraid I'd disappear at any moment. I didn't know what exactly was going through his head, but his grip would keep tightening until I had to gently sigh. Liam. In the dark, his voice trembled. If one day you found out I lied to you, would you break up with me? His heart pounded against his chest, strong, chaotic, like it wanted to push through his skin to beg me for some kind of assurance. I smiled, placed my hand over the one clutching my waist, and calmly replied, "Of course not." Silly boy. I wasn't in a relationship with him. What's there to break up from? He was the one who made the first move, while I simply chose to enjoy the intimacy with a clear head. But unlike me, Liam had truly fallen. Every glance, every embrace, every kiss from him had gone far beyond the role of a pretend nanny. And I understood. He was truly in love with me. So foolishly deep that he didn't even realize the only person in this game who had never once laid their heart on the table was me. Today, I attended an art exhibition with Liam, hosted by Isabella Reed. She was a friend of Ethan's and had been quite close to me back when I was still dating him. Isabella had invited me multiple times. I couldn't keep declining, so I asked directly, "Can I bring my boyfriend?" Her reply came quickly, so fast. "Already found someone new?" Followed by another. "Serves Ethan right. He was still smug, thinking you'd never leave him." That night, I brought Liam. The moment we stepped into the lobby under the bright lights, Liam frowned and lowered his voice. "Didn't you say, we're just meeting your friend?" I pointed toward Isabella, standing in the distance, and smiled faintly. "We are," Liam muttered under his breath, leaning in a few times to whisper, "Let's just go home." But each time, I held him back. I tilted my head slightly, whispered, "Stay with me, be good." The atmosphere slowly stirred. Many eyes subtly glanced in our direction. A click rang out. Liam snapped his head around. "What are you taking pictures of?" he snapped, voice sharp. "Delete it." The person hadn't even reacted before a whole group rushed in to defuse the situation. Chaos erupted for a moment. Then Ethan appeared. He pushed through the crowd, his face dark, ignoring everyone as he marched straight toward me. His voice boomed, "Sophie, you've got someone else." "This guy?" Liam stepped in front of me, his back and shoulders tense. He shoved away the person blocking his path and turned to walk toward the door. "Stop right there!" Ethan lunged forward, shouting through the hall. "Running away, huh, Noah Parker?" the crowd murmured. Whispers spread quickly. "That's Ethan's old rival. Got kicked out of the company after clashing with Ethan over a major project." I raised an eyebrow. So, Liam was just a fake name. If he had followed through with the original revenge plan, he should have coldly smirked, lifted his chin at Ethan, and revealed that he had successfully deceived Ethan's girlfriend. But Noah stood frozen, face pale, eyes trembling as they locked onto mine. Not with defiance, but with something like pleading, unease, desperation. "Sophie!" His voice cracked. Ethan grabbed Noah's collar, spitting each word. "You slept with my girlfriend to get back at me?" They were pulled apart, but Ethan still screamed, "Sophie, do you even know who he is? He got close to you just to get revenge on me." "Noah Parker, your old rival, right?" I said calmly. Both of them froze. Especially Noah. His lips parted, but no words came out. Ethan whipped toward me, furious. "Are you insane? You knew he approached you just to go after me, and yet you still—" His sentence cut off, stuck in his throat. I sat calmly on the sofa, lifted my wine glass, and took a small sip. I'm just a single woman. Hired a nanny like Liam for cheap, someone who takes care of everything from meals to bedtime. I don't see the problem. Isabella laughed, chiming in. "Lucky you, sister. Liam, I'll pay more. Want to come work for me?" Noah's face instantly turned grim. He didn't reply, just stared hard at me, eyes filled with despair. Finally, he stepped in front of me, stood tall, rigid, voice hoarse. Sophie, how long have you known? I gently shook the phone in my hand, lips curling into a cold smile. Since the day you walked into my apartment, Noah Parker. His face went completely white. In that moment, the entire room fell silent. The only sound left was the chaotic beating of the heart inside the chest of the man who had just been exposed. The day Noah left my old apartment was also the day my new comic series reached its final chapter. I set my pen down, fingertips still stained with a bit of ink, and stared at the last drawing. A teenage boy, slender build but determined eyes, resembling Noah. I whispered softly, my voice almost dissolving into the quiet air. Goodbye. The time we spent together was full of chaos, lies, desire, but also laughter and moments that felt almost real. Let's just say, it had its joys. But every story needs an ending, and this was the final chapter of ours. Through my pen, new characters would be born again. And my life, just the same, would move on to a different page. Noah, or Liam as I used to call him, slowly packed up his things. Calling it luggage was generous. It was just a few basic outfits, some odds and ends that barely mattered. In his hand was that familiar black tank top. He looked up at me, his eyes filled with something too complex for me to read. His voice was hoarse, shaky. You said you wouldn't break up with me, even if I lied. I paused for a beat, then tilted my head slightly and smiled, colder than I'd ever smiled before. That's right. Because we were never together, so there's nothing to break up from. I pulled out a thick envelope from the drawer and shoved it into his hand. This is your pay. Take it and go. In that old apartment, the late daylight spilled through the speckled window, casting a patchy glow on Noah's pale face. His fingers trembled as they clutched the envelope, but he didn't say a word. He lowered his head, shoulders slightly trembling, then turned and walked out, one heavy step at a time. The door closed behind him with a dry, echoing thud. I stood there for a long time, the pencil still in my hand, not yet released. Finally, I sat back down, opened a blank page, and kept drawing. Because I knew clearly, from this moment on, the character named Liam Hayes, or Noah Parker, would forever be nothing more than a sketch in the story of my life. After receiving another round of royalties, I decided to buy back my old house, the one with peeling walls and cracks like a face long neglected, and had it completely renovated. Every day, I patiently watched as workers restored each layer of the walls, laid new flooring, and in the end, I personally picked each flower pot to place by the windowsill. Maybe this house was a lot like me. It had been broken down, had carried its wounds, but still managed to come back to life, wearing a new, brighter, and more peaceful look. I heard Ethan had truly changed. He no longer partied, no more all-night drinking sessions, and never again mentioned the word freedom that he once used as a weapon to justify his betrayal. His social circle had long been void of women, but none of that had anything to do with me anymore. I no longer had the time, nor the reason, to care about the patterns of someone who had left my life. I was busy living in my own world, a world where characters came to life through the strokes of my pen, where love and tragedy, joy and tears belonged to them and no longer held me captive. The male lead in my new series was a man of cold restraint, someone who's held himself back to the extreme, whose love flowed quietly like an underground current beneath the shadows, only bending gently in nights without light. Yet I still couldn't find a clear enough inspiration to fully shape him. Until one day, I stepped outside the house and wandered through the long streets of the city. In the early sunlight, each slightly open window, each cafe carrying the scent of roasted coffee, each branch swaying in the breeze, felt like small but tender signals. And then, among the crowd, I unexpectedly saw a familiar face. The upperclassman I once had a quiet crush on back in college. In my memory, he was a genius, always distant, untouchable, a flower no one dared approach. I stood still for a few seconds, then smiled and greeted him. He simply looked at me, with a gaze as gentle as if the years had never passed, and softly said, "Sophie, it's been a long time." In his voice, I heard my own youth, heard long dormant feelings awaken again, and suddenly, the face of the male lead in my story came into sharp, vivid focus, as if I had just found the final missing piece. In that moment, I understood. Some encounters, even if they come late, still carry enough power to open a new beginning. The house now had blooming flowers, the page had a new face, and my heart, at last, had found a true sense of peace.